Hi, welcome back to Grains in Small Places, and today I'm going to show you how we use up all those Thanksgiving leftovers. I've got a little secret weapon. We only need one dough to make all of these different recipes. So let's get started. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to get my wheat berries and I'm going to actually weigh them out. Or I'm going to put a link in the description to the printable recipe that you can go to, and I'll tell you how much wheat berries to use to make how much flour that you use. So I'm going to use this hard white wheat, and I'm going to use about 415 grams, which equals about 2 cups of the wheat berries. I love these moisture absorbers. I leave these in my little containers, these snappable containers. If you're interested in the containers or the moisture absorbers or anything in my video, I will put a link to all of the things down below for you. And then I'm going to add a half a cup of the kamut berries, which is about 100 grams. This, after it's all milled, should give me about 4 cups of flour, give or take. So I'm going to go ahead and mill these into a fine flour. That way they are ready to go. Okay, and as you can see, this is my nice fine flour here, and it's going to give me about 4 cups of flour or so. I'm going to reserve about 2 tablespoons of this flour aside, so pull that out. That way you can use it for your streusel topping. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my induction burner and I'm going to put in about 3/4 cup of water. And I love to use my Fairlife milk. You guys know that if you've been following me. And then I'm going to use 3/4 cups of the milk. And I'm going to put this on a medium heat. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of sugar. And I'm going to also add 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt and 3 tablespoons of a light olive oil or coconut oil, whatever oil you want to use. And I'm going to stir that around until all of the sugar and all of the butter melts. We want to make sure that we do cook the milk because, as I've said before, cold milk will actually stop gluten formation, and we want the gluten for this dough to make it nice and stretchy and pillowy. And once it's all melted and all incorporated, then I'm going to just pull it off the heat and set it to the side and let it to cool down a little bit. I want it to be under 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That way it doesn't kill my yeast when I add it to my dough. Now I'm going to grab my mixer. I love this thing. I'm going to put in my bowl and my dough attachment. So once the mixture that I had heated up cooled down enough, I went ahead and poured it into my bowl. And then I'm going to add 2 eggs to the mixture as well. And then to that, I add all of the flour that we milled earlier. I'm going to mix all that in to stir to combine, and that way all of the ingredients are wet and there's no dry flour left. Fresh milled flour always takes a little bit longer to absorb the liquid, but it does usually absorb a lot more liquid when we're using the hard wheat varieties. So after all of this is incorporated, I'm going to go ahead and let this dough sit for about 10 minutes. It can sit longer if you want, but it just helps the fresh milled flour to absorb that liquid so that when it comes time to the kneading, it helps that happen a little bit faster. Okay, and after the dough is sat for a little bit, then I'm going to add my yeast. So I'm going to add about 2¼ teaspoons of yeast, which is about as much as one of those packets handles. I'm going to use the instant yeast just because it's quicker for me. I'm going to go ahead and knead that all in and incorporate. Once it's all incorporated, I'm going to go ahead and turn my mixer up to level 2 to start the kneading process. And then I'm going to just let it knead as long as it needs to be kneaded until it passes the window pane test. Okay, the dough is looking like the texture I really like it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and perform the window pane test. I'm going to just scoop this off of here and I'm going to start stretching it gently. So now I know, since I can stretch it, that this is ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and just spray it with some oil so it doesn't stick to my cover, and I'm going to cover this for 1 to 2 hours or until the dough doubles in size. So while my dough is rising, I'm going to go ahead and start the streusel topping. So I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of butter and I'm going to just melt it in the microwave. And then once that is melted, I'm going to add about those 2 tablespoons of flour that I reserved earlier. And then I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar and just a little pinch of salt. And I'm going to mix that all around till it's dry and crumbly. I'm going to cover that and let it sit to the side so that I can sprinkle it on the top of my sweet kolaches. Okay, and now that my dough has doubled in size, it's been a little over an hour, I'm going to use some light olive oil on my table. That way I don't have to add any extra flour in and it won't stick to my table. It's really easy to work with. This dough is super sticky because it is a sweet dough with quite a bit of sugar in it. So I'm just going to take the saran wrap off and stick it on my table. I'm going to just play with it a little bit just because I kind of love to play with the dough. Love the way that it feels. It's relaxing to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide it in as close to 20 equal pieces as I can. You can measure them out to make sure they weigh the same if you would like. So with your Thanksgiving leftovers, a great thing to do with, say you have mashed potatoes, you could go ahead and put the leftover mashed potatoes right into the dough. You can usually use about a half a cup of the mashed potatoes without even altering your dough amounts. If you want to use more than that, then you're probably going to have to play around with your flour and liquid ratio. So today I'm going to be using leftover cranberry sauce, and that's going to go on my sweet kolaches, and then they're going to be topped with that yummy streusel topping. And then for my savory, I'm going to go with leftover turkey, leftover chicken, leftover ham, any of those meats. You can put those in the center of the savory kolaches, and then you can pair it with some cheese. Maybe you have leftover cheese ball. You could throw that in there instead of the cheese with the meat. My son loves macaroni and cheese, so filling one of these with some leftover macaroni and cheese would be like heaven for him. For the sweet kolaches, you could probably use any pie filling. So cherry pie, pumpkin pie, pecan pie, apple pie, any of the pies. You could scoop any of the pie filling out and put them in the little wells that we make and bake them off. If it tasted good as a pie, it's gonna taste even better as a kolache. And I'm gonna go ahead and take 9 of these individual pieces and roll them into balls, and then I'm going to shape them by kind of just pushing up with one finger and on one hand and then holding it with the other hand, almost pushing the dough through my fingers so I could have a nice tight edge on the outside. This is very sticky dough, like I was saying before, so I just had to keep going back to the olive oil and putting it on my hands so it doesn't stick to my hands. I obviously don't want to ruin the shaping. So I'm just going to shape about 9 of these dough balls and put them on my 9x13 tray, and then I'm going to cover those and let those sit for about 30 to 40 minutes until they double in size, and then I'll show you what we do next with them. And these are going to be for our sweet kolaches. You could make this whole batch sweet or this whole batch savory or whatever ratio of sweet to savory you want to do. I'm just showing you what I decided to do at this time. I make all different flavors of these. It's actually a really quick meal and dessert all in one dough, easy, simple. Get it all done and use a lot of those leftover ingredients. Okay, so with the savory ones, what I'm going to do is just take the rest, I think there's 11 here, and I'm going to smash them down flat, and I'm going to put my filling in. Whether we use turkey, chicken, ham, sausage, cheese, macaroni and cheese, even stuffing, any of the things taste good in this dough. So we're just going to stick that in the middle, fold them up like a little envelope or a little present with a hidden delicious gem inside, and we're just going to pinch the sides to make sure that nothing can seep through easily. Yes, if you put cheese in here, it probably is going to have some seepage. It just happens, but it doesn't make them any less delicious. And then I'm going to, after they're all filled and all the seams are pinched together, I'm going to put them on the tray, and then I'm going to cover those for about 30 to 40 minutes or until they're doubled. Okay, now that it's been about 35 minutes or so, I'm going to go ahead and just make a simple egg wash. I'm just going to take one egg, put a little bit of water in there, and just beat it around with a fork so that it's all incorporated and it's not still separated. And I'm just going to use my little silicone pastry brush, and I'm going to paint the egg wash all over the savory kolaches, and then these will be ready to bake. I find the 1/3 cup measuring cup works the best for these little wells for me. So I'm going to grab the measuring cup and I'm just going to dip the bottom in some more olive oil. That way it doesn't stick. And then I'm going to just try to center it and press it into the sweet little dough balls, the sweet kolache dough balls. And I'm just going to press it in pretty far because I don't want it to cut all the way through, obviously, but I do want it to go down pretty far because these still are going to rise in the oven when they're baking. And then after I press all those in, I'm going to use that egg wash again and just egg wash all around in the little wells. It's going to egg wash all around the outsides. This is going to make them a nice golden brown. The egg wash actually helps brown your baked goods. Okay, and then after all of the egg wash is put on the kolaches, I'm going to use my leftover cranberry sauce. Again, you could use all kinds of fillings. I've used several different kinds. And I'll just let you know that these cranberry ones were so good. So I'm probably going to put this on my list of regular ones that I'm making, especially around the fall, Thanksgiving holidays, and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to put about, I'd say 2 to 3 tablespoons of the cranberry sauce in the little wells that we made. And if I would have made all of these sweet ones, I probably would have ran out of the cranberries. But since I did half and half, I did still have a little bit left. So now I'm going to use the streusel topping that we made earlier. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle that over the top of all of the kolaches that are sweet. Okay, and I'm going to bake these for about 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 14 to 15 minutes. And then I'm going to let them cool a little bit, and they'll be ready to eat. These are the savory ones, just so showing you how soft. And now I'm going to put in the sweet ones. And here are the sweet ones. Yum. I love how pillowy these are. Thank you so much for spending time with me today as I showed you what I do with my Thanksgiving leftovers. I hope you found some value in today's video. Please give me a like and subscribe to help my channel grow, and that way you won't miss any videos that I have coming out next. Also, don't forget to check out my blog at grainsinsmallplaces.net, where you can find all of these recipes and a whole bunch of other recipes on there. If you have any questions for me, just go ahead and shoot me a message on there or down in the comments below, and I love to answer all things fresh wheat. So, thank you so much for stopping by Grains and Small Places. Goodbye!